Good morning, everybody. My name is Menka Goyal, and thank you for this opportunity. So I have been a part of this group about 5-6 years ago as a part of nothings.io. That was my startup for device virtualization, IoT device virtualization. And I did partner with some of you in this room at the time, but today I'm here for a very different reason. It's a reason that ignites my passion, and it gives me a sense of mission and a hope. And the hope is for a greener and more sustainable world. I truly believe that the transformation towards sustainability is not just inevitable, but it's possible through technology. So we will see today that how by using these three powerhouse technologies, IoT, AI, and blockchain together, how can we create a robust and an efficient solution towards that mission that all of the humanity should be caring for right now, is stopping and reversing the climate changes that we are seeing. All right, so I did print quick. So this is what we call an A team for NZTWork. And by the way, I'm representing NZTWork as a board of advisory member. NZTWork is a Silicon Valley startup, and they have taken on the mission to accelerate the future towards more sustainable world by making the technology and everything else accessible and possible for everybody. So in a collaborative fashion between individuals, between industries, government, NGOs, utilities alike should be able to collaborate and have the motivation to make that move. So as you see some famous names here, and the first one that pops out is the NBA World Champion Meta World Peace. And it's cool that we have such influential people who are feeling passionate about this cause, and they have joined the workforce with NZTWork and DeCarbonization. So let me start with my story as to how I ended up in this remarkable path. In my senior year of college, to finish a project, I had to stay in my classmate's apartment one night. It was the horrific night of winter, really, really cold, and winds were howling outside, but we had to finish the project. So I ended up there, and after finishing the apartment, everyone went back to their rooms, tucked in their cozy beds, and warm. And here I am in my cheap sleeping bag and the living room sofa, and shivering in cold. And the winds were howling outside, and I was just, my teeth chattering was probably too loud that it woke up my friends. So my kind friends, they all rushed to my side with a warm blanket in their hand. So they put the first blanket on me, and immediately I felt a sense of relief. I felt the warmth and much more peaceful and cozy. Well, but they didn't stop there. They put another blanket on me, and another, until I was buried in the mountain of blankets. And now I was profusely sweating, my heart was racing, and I was really desperately trying to fight myself out of that mountain of blankets that were over me. So what do you think happened next? Nothing much, because this is just an exaggeration of the prank my friends played. But I wanted to share this story to explain a concept. Our Earth is surrounded by a layer of carbon dioxide, without which we all will be shivering with cold. This layer acts as a blanket, and it prevents the heat from leaving the surface of Earth into the atmosphere, out of the atmosphere. So if we don't have this layer, we all will be miserable. But what has happened over the last 200 or so years is this layer has thickened. And it has thickened a lot. So it's kind of like a mountain of blankets that I was feeling on me. Okay. So when that happens, and this has happened in last 200 or so years since Industrial Revolution. For about 10,000 years, we have maintained the balance in the ecosystem because the carbon dioxide that was being produced was getting reabsorbed. So there was a balance in nature. But in the last 200 or so years, when we started burning fossil fuels, more and more carbon dioxide was getting emitted, and the layer was getting thicker and thicker. And we are all seeing the repercussions of all that. The wildfires in Canada, who can imagine wildfires in Canada? California has always been dealing with it, floods and ice caps melting and biodiversity loss and ocean acidification, you name it. We are all dealing with the consequences of this excessive greenhouse gas emissions. So I truly believe, by the way, we are emitting about 55 billion tons of carbon dioxide every year. Just to give you a perspective, an average human being emits 6 tons of carbon dioxide in a year. 1 ton is emitted by driving a car about 2,500 miles. So if you drive that car like 6 times, that'd be 6 tons. So that's what an average human being emits, but the airlines generally emit about 1 billion tons every year. And to give you a perspective, what a 1 ton of carbon dioxide looks like, it's 27 by 27 by 27 feet cube, which is the size of a cell phone tower. So if you create a cube of that, that's 1 ton of carbon dioxide. And we are emitting 55 billion tons every year, and not even a fraction of that is getting reabsorbed by our ecosystem, by trees and by whatever other means we have for absorbing the carbon dioxide. So I really believe that humanity must come together. It has to be a coordinated effort where we shed these excess blankets of carbon dioxide that is in our environment. And a lot of things are happening, a lot of agencies are working around the globe towards it, but it cannot be done by one single entity. Each one of us need to be aware and need to participate in making this change happen. Okay, that was my story. Now, so one such measure which the global organizations are taking for helping with the climate change is carbon credits. We all talk about renewable energy a lot, and I want to present one point about renewable energy before we look at this video. Renewable energy usage of that is not just for humans controlling the climate. It's more than that. It's us tapping into more reliable sources of energy, the ones that can survive the challenges of growing economies, the ones that are more flexible and can give us a more steady and stable economies in the world. And what we have seen now with scale is that these renewable energy sources like solar and wind, they can actually outperform the classic generator energies, which are created by burning fossil fuels. So for our economy's health as well, we need renewable energy sources. But having said that, let's see what carbon credits are. I don't know how many of you are aware of those or not. I wasn't a couple of years ago until I got involved in this. So just set the perspective. How would we hear the one?
That may be the trick. I didn't know you were going to be playing, because you may have trouble playing the audio from your
laptop.
Yeah.
All right. Let me explain what carbon credits are. So a carbon credit represents 1 ton of carbon. All companies that emit greenhouse gases, and automobiles, airlines, and everybody, right? We all have a carbon footprint. So all these companies that emit, most of them, there is a sort of regulation as to what's the maximum limit of carbon you can emit. That's called a cap. So companies, for example, let's pick automobile. Now Ford, in their production and outcome, their automobiles, they emit a lot more greenhouse gases compared to Tesla, for example, right? So they may end up exceeding the emissions that they are allowed to emit. So there is a market, like it's kind of like a stock market. It's called carbon credit market, where companies trade carbon. So to give you a perspective, Tesla is able to sell their carbon credits to other companies that need more of it and generate a revenue of about $2 to $3 billion. And that has been going year after year. So carbon credit is like an asset class in a marketplace that you can trade. It's kind of like a regulated market. It's a global market. Companies from US can purchase carbon credits from companies in Africa, Europe, China, and so on and so forth. So does that make sense? So this video has been great to explain that, but anyway. So there are two kinds of carbon market. One is the regulatory market that I just talked about, where different companies are trading with each other. They're selling excess carbon credits, or other companies are buying. And then there is a market called voluntary carbon market. Voluntary carbon market is where people create projects claiming that their project is going to reduce the carbon footprint. Or they would claim that, okay, I'm planting a forest with that many number of trees, and my calculations say that we are going to absorb that much carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So that's, they can create a project, and then they can list that project in what we call voluntary carbon market. There are some organizations like Vera and Gold Standards. They certify these carbon credits, that are they legit or not. But there's no regulatory body actually looking over it. That's the problem with the voluntary carbon market. So what I wanted to explain here is how do we move forward from this, just click here. All right. So all these organizations that I talk about, like UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program, or some of you might have heard of Paris Agreement, those sort of things. So many environmental conversations happening. So there are some global climate goals that are set up by these organizations, and one of them is to reach net zero carbon emission by 2020. Net zero essentially means for each molecule of greenhouse gas that we emit in the atmosphere, we absorb one back. So making the net emissions zero. That's what it is. So what we're trying to say here is that, okay, we have so many billion tons of carbon dioxide sitting there, but for now, going forward, every carbon dioxide molecule we emit, we are going to absorb back. So that's the net zero. So we need to reach net zero by 2050, which is a very lofty goal. But believe it or not, many countries and many, many large organizations have embraced it. Apple, Amazon, Microsoft. If you look up, do Google on net zero and see what companies are involved in that, you will find some really influential names out there. So another one, I don't know if you have heard this term, 1.5 degrees centigrade. People just call it 1.5. So as I explained earlier, for 10,000 years, our Earth was at an optimal temperature. It maintained a certain kind of temperature and carbon balance and everything. So over the last 150 to 200 years or so, the temperature has gradually started rising. So today, Earth's surface temperature, or Earth's temperature itself, is already over 1.2 degrees centigrade. And the goal is to limit that to 1.5, because if we reach 1.5 or exceed 1.5, there will be irreversible climate impact on the planet. There will be loss of biodiversity and a huge amount of suffering for the human beings. There will be communities that will be wiped off from the surface of Earth, coastal communities, for example. So 1.5 is a critical number. If you become interested in sustainability topic, you will hear that number a lot. Now you're thinking 1.2, 1.5, I mean, what's the big deal about, a couple degrees up and down? In Texas, we deal with plus minus 40 degrees centigrade sometimes on the same day. So who cares? Well, we do. It matters a whole lot when it comes to Earth's atmosphere and Earth's surface temperature. So limiting to 1.5 is a critical one. And I just recently read a report that some scientists are forecasting that we might reach 1.5 as early as 2027. And that scares the hell out of me. I mean, I'm really scared of hearing that. So I have 2 children, and I care for their future and their grandchildren and everything else, right? So we have to do something for our future generations. Now, carbon credit, we already talked about. So carbon credit is a temporary means of getting us to net zero. And when I say temporary, let me just give you an analogy. Let's say we all are in a boat, and we discover a hole in that boat only after a bunch of water has entered the boat, right? So now there's a whole bunch of water, and then there's a hole. So while some of you are scrambling to find the hole and fix the hole and make sure no more water gets in, the rest of us will pick up buckets and start pouring the water out so we don't sink. That's what carbon credits are doing. Carbon credits are giving us means to stay afloat while organizations and companies are working towards a more permanent long-term solution of stopping and reversing the climate change. And better regulations. We talked about voluntary, especially voluntary markets. They need better regulations. We will be seeing more of that in upcoming slides. So there are many other greenhouse gas emission related climate goals: reduce, reuse, recycle. We all hear those terms. Ecosystem design, carbon capture and storage. This is interesting. We won't be talking about the below points for the rest of the presentation. It's not in the context of NZT work, but CCS is a very interesting thing, which I was very interested in understanding that. So we capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and we actually turn it into porous rock formation and store it underground. So this is CCS project. I didn't even know that existed until a year ago or so. So it's kind of like fossil fuels, converting it to gas, and then converting the gas back into solid and storing it in the porous formation. So these are some of the climate goals we're trying to meet. Now, all these goals are good, but they are easier said than done. And the example is that how many of us are even aware that all these, the seriousness exists in the climate? I wasn't even until a year or 2 ago. So there are many hurdles we have to cross. So some of those shown here. All these projects, VERA is an accrediting agency that certifies carbon projects. And like I said, people are creating scandalous projects out there. Somebody in Brazil would be saying, I'm going to plant a forest, and they will take pictures and whatever else, videos, drone videos, and send it across to VERA. And who has time to send people and actually verify all of those things? So there are not many credible projects sitting out there in the voluntary carbon market. We do have to put a lot of effort into bringing regulation or using technology to make those data points more authentic and have some monitoring in place. Another one is all these carbon reduction projects. The idea is they are meant to help the local economies. So companies, most of the carbon or greenhouse gas emissions happen in Europe and US. And most of these projects are within other countries like Latin America, Africa, Asian countries also. So you pay them so that their economies grow while creating more carbon reduction, and we are able to emit until we are able to find a way of not emitting, right? So that is not happening either. Those projects have been found to not be effective there either. So the voluntary market has to grow by 100 times, 200 billion by 2050 to meet the goals that we saw on the previous slide. And finally, these transactions on the carbon market, they are not cheap. They are expensive. There is a process involved. There are intermediary parties involved. So there is a cost associated with that. So regular people like you and I or smaller companies, they don't have much accessibility into these markets where they can list their project and monetize if they are doing something.
Yeah. What's the enforcement mechanism on the industries? Like you said, each industry gets a quota of carbon that they can release. Is that set by countries' governments, or is there like a international body that enforces that and finds industries that produce beyond the carbon that they're allocated?
Yeah, great question. There are international regulatory bodies, and one of that is United Nations UNEP environmental program, and each country has their own regulatory body as well that decide the emission quota.
Okay, so a Fortune 500 company, it's real. They will face a fine if they exceed their allocation of carbon.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just kind of a small story just to add here to the kind of the private carbon credit market. Interesting enough, out in East Texas, I leased some land from a rancher for a duck lease, and he's got about 500 acres of cattle grazing land. He used to just lease it out to another rancher to run cattle on. Just last year, he decided to plant 500 acres of grassland with trees because he entered into some kind of carbon credit transaction. So I guess for the next 30, 40, 50 years, I mean, a big forest is going to grow on what was once, I'll call, improved grassland. So obviously he's getting money for this, and he's making more than if he just leased out the land to.
Great example. Absolutely. That's a great example. And these are the kind of projects that are coming up. Now, see, he's in Texas, and if there's a regulatory body here, it's easy to go and check and verify, right? But there are many, many projects out there in the voluntary market where it's hard to verify, hence the problem. But yes, that is a great example of that. And the CCS I was talking about, there are startup companies claiming that we are absorbing carbon and we're converting it into rock forest formation. And interestingly enough, just 2 days ago, because I like all these UN biodiversity posts a lot, I get a lot of posts. So these two twin sisters, somewhere in Minnesota or so, they created this product which will capture carbon, mix it with some sort of gel, and turn it into fabric. So they're creating fabric and make clothes out of these carbon captures as well. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. If you get interested in the topic, there's a lot of material out there to read. So the number down below, 900 billion carbon market, that is the total carbon market, regulatory plus voluntary carbon. So one hype is to become more sustainable. Why can't energy companies start using sustainable or renewable energy sources like solar and wind or hydrogen these days, right? So why can't ERCOT do that? But they can't do it alone. There are several problems. There is a huge backlog, 4+ years of backlog of solar projects sitting out there, and there's not enough infrastructure to actually transmit that solar power. So energy companies alone would not be able to do it. It has to be a coordinated effort between companies and governments and society at large. We all need to participate in that. Existing incentives and regulations are good, but they're not enough. There should be some sort of long-term incentives for private investors. The thing is, all these voluntary projects sitting out there, they require private sector investment. And there are people that are really passionate about this topic, but they are so skeptical about these projects because they could be scandalous. They could get bad PR, like a world famous NBA star may not want to buy a project somewhere out there, and then a month later they are in the headlines saying, you were investing in, I don't know, some illegal crop or something. So the regulations have to be more long-term. There have to be checks and balances in place. There should be monitoring, verification, and how these things are conducted. All right, so those some of the problems we discussed. Now, technology, and that's why we are here, right? We're all technologists. We came here to understand how is technology going to solve this problem. So first of all, let's understand what technology can do in this field. Technology is going to help us measure the carbon emission reductions that projects are claiming, right? Who is measuring it? Either humans have to measure it or some tools and technologies have to be put in place. And secondarily, technology will provide us tools to expedite this transition towards a carbon-free economy. There are some fundamental characteristics of a high-integrity carbon credit project. So these boxes that you see, these are all features that a high-integrity carbon credit should have to be claimed as a legit carbon credit. So additionality. Additionality means that without this project, the amount of carbon reduction that's happening will not happen. For example, if you're using solar, you are saving that much kilowatt hours of fossil fuel energy. Okay? So there is a net saving, additionality there. Permanence, we talked about carbon capture and storage projects, so it doesn't get re-released. Double counting means a country that's purchasing the carbon credit is claiming carbon reduction, and the country that is selling the carbon credit is also claiming carbon reduction. So they are getting double counting benefits on both sides, which is wrong, right? If you have sold your carbon credit, and the company purchasing should be getting that. Leakages, when we shift that carbon emission from one place to another, and we claim that the job is done. If we shift the manufacturing from USA to China, and USA claims that we are carbon free for this particular sector, then that's called leakage. Do no harm, we talked about any of these projects should not harm the local economies, it should actually help. And there's a huge need of transparency, governance, ease of registration in the field of carbon credits. And above all, measurement and verification. So as you see, these little icons tell you where IoT has its place for measurement, verification, sensing, all of those things. And then blockchain will provide its transparency and immutability to ensure that nobody is cheating here. The data actually is what it needs to be. And this is where NZTWork and Decarbon come into picture. NZTWork has built a blockchain platform that will hold the data of carbon emission reductions. And that data is coming from genuine sources, and that data is measured by the IoT sensor kits that are tamper-proof, that are accurate, and that cannot be messed around with. So Decarbon is a company that actually builds those components, the measurement kits, and the IoT nodes and such, blockchain nodes, and NZTWork provides that network through it. And MetaCloud is the Web3 technology that actually creates that blockchain network. So these are the three brand names we use. And MetaCloud, it says it can power smart cities, smart grids, and it provides digital infrastructure for several decentralized apps.
Good question. So the actual blockchain is being maintained by NZT Network?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what does MetaCloud do on top of that?
MetaCloud is the name of that network.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like GCP, Google and GCP. So, yeah. Yeah. All right. We'll see that in the next slide. Okay. So this is what a current carbon credit certificate lifecycle looks like. And this, I'm going to present this in the perspective of if you and I could be a project developer or a small company. So let's say I have solar panels installed on my roof and I want to monetize it in the carbon economy. Like he was saying, that person transformed his land because he wants to monetize in the carbon credit economy, right? So in the project design phase, I put up the solar panels on my roof. Then generally, we engage with some sort of private advisory firms. Those advisory firms will help you navigate the complex landscape of carbon marketplace. They will help you build a project plan, documentation, how to measure your emission. There's a whole set of process involved there. So those firms can help you do that because as a developer, you and I don't have access to those markets very easily. And it's a very lengthy process. And after that lengthy process, they are able to help register that with the standard accrediting organizations like Vera or Gold Standard. So now my project is registered with that organization. So that organization will take my project, look into all the details, and they will involve some other intermediaries like the standard certifier or auditor or reporter. And in this middle part where you see MRV, they will do their own monitoring, reporting, and verification of that project, and another lengthy process. And finally, your project gets certified. So once it's certified, you are given the carbon credit certificates, which you can put on the marketplace. So now I have my carbon credit certificates, I put it on the marketplace, and the buyers have to come in and they may choose to buy the certificate. Because there is so much mistrust in the voluntary market, buyers can do their own due diligence. So there's another cycle involved of verification and monitoring and such before they decide to buy. Finally, after all of that due diligence is done, the carbon credit is sold and the purchaser will deliver the funds. The funds are distributed to all the different intermediaries that are involved. The transaction fees are paid off. And then whatever is left over will come in your pocket. So that's the cycle. So if I have shown every step on this slide, you would see there would be 18 steps or manual handoffs between different parties in the current traditional carbon credit life cycle. What if I can tell you that this can be done in 4 steps with technology? Okay, so by using blockchain and IoT, we can accomplish this from end to end without involving any kind of intermediaries or any kind of manual handoff. What you need to do, install the measurement kits, because that's actually going to measure the energy that I'm saving. It's going to calculate the solar energy I'm producing and saving the kilowatt hours, right? Then that data is going to be published to the blockchain network, the meta cloud that we just saw. The blockchain is going to take the data in, the carbon emission reduction data, and translate that into equivalent carbon credits. And it's going to tokenize it. So once it's tokenized, it's registered on the blockchain. Now, blockchain is serving the marketplace where buyers can go. They can look at different carbon credits that are available out there, and they can choose to purchase. And once it's purchased, once it's sold, it can be taken out of circulation, retired and taken out of circulation, all within the technological framework. No manual handoff, no intermediaries involved. And throughout this whole process, artificial intelligence will be used to optimize the blockchain operations and to enhance the user experiences. We'll run several different modeling and analytics and all of those things to optimize the different algorithms that are sitting on the blockchain. Okay. I'm taking a pause for any questions before.
You mentioned solar when you talked about measurement kit.
Yeah.
Is that just an example, or are there other measurement kits for different contributors?
So the first phase of NZTWork is for solar panels, for EV chargers, and for EV vehicles. You will see it's in the very next slide. Yeah, but they have plans to expand it. to other areas as well. So there might be IoT sensing devices coming up for farming or so, but right now the focus is on the solar panels.
Good question. You mentioned you're using AI to optimize the blockchain. Could you explain a bit more how exactly that is being done?
Yeah, can we hold for a few minutes?
Sure.
Because some upcoming slides will be able to show that.
Yeah.
Is there, what is like the level of commitment for someone who says, okay, I'm going to put solar on my property. I'll go through the measurement process to extract what the value of those credits are. I mean, is it in perpetuity that individual who is creating these carbon credits from this investment in a solar complex or planting of trees on property? Is there a term involved where it's like, yeah, 20-year commitment that I'll run these solar panels because the credits that are created have to survive for a certain period of time, or else they lose value, right?
There is no commitment. As far as the solution that I'm showing you is concerned, it's all measured real time. So think about it. If you have a measurement kit and it measured that this week you saved, let's say, 2 tons of carbon, and 2 tons of carbon is equal to 2 carbon credits. It goes in the marketplace. Someone who needs 2 carbon credits would give you the money and purchase those 2 tokens from, and that's it. That token is out of circulation right then.
It's continuously measured, like in the case of solar, you're continuously measuring.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So as the solar is saving more carbon, you are generating more carbon credits, and you can monetize on that. But they are taken out of circulation once they're purchased and used by a company that's actually emitting 2 more tons of carbon. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we will just have a little bit of visual to imagine how it works. So businesses, like we said, airlines, they need to generate more carbon, but they don't have enough. Their cap limits them, and they need to purchase more carbon credits. So in step 2, you and I, or any small business, we may want to monetize on my EV. You know, if I drive Tesla, for example, I can list that because I'm driving Tesla, I'm saving that much of gasoline, which translates to that much carbon credit. That's possibility 2. So we plug into the NZTWork system through the app. So there's a mobile app. I might be able to show you later. But through the app, you plug into the NZTWork system, and the app suggests you certain measures of creating more of those credits. It may suggest, okay, shift your washer and dryer timings to a certain time, which is low carbon intense, and you can save so much. Change your light bulbs to so and so, and you can save so much. So app will give you suggestions of generating more of that carbon reduction credit that you need. Also, step 3 is just saying that all these measures of carbon reductions are not linked to the power infrastructure. So we don't need the power grid to actually calculate how much solar you are generating. It's all within the realm of your household or your system.
So
then
the solar is going to be home implementations. You know, I go out and pay somebody to put solar panels on my roof.
Yeah.
What about large scale solar farms? Is that a part of the focus as well, or is it mainly
that is actually the
other side
main
of the
focus.
meter?
It's the commercial solar projects is the main focus of NZTWork right now, but it is also available to individuals like us. So I have pre-ordered their kits myself to be a part of that ecosystem.
So the big commercial solar, they don't have anything like this today? I mean, they're out looking for a solution, or
they are out looking for a solution. Right. Yeah. But all these solar companies, they do have this carbon credit aspect, but it goes through that cycle I showed earlier. Remember that 18 steps and so many intermediaries? So that voluntary carbon market today, the traditional one, it has so many loopholes. It has long cycles. So people are shying away from it. So they're looking for a more technological solution where there is accuracy and transparency and immutability. We're not messing around with the numbers.
If I put in a large commercial solar installation, I'm making money by selling power onto the grid,
Yes.
but I'm also going to be able to make money in the carbon credit marketplace. Any idea of how those two things compare roughly? I mean, am I making about the same from both? Am I making less from carbon credits, typically more from carbon credits? Any idea, where that sits?
So I don't have an exact answer, but let me just try to answer it this way. Carbon credits are like stock market. Their value fluctuates. Sometimes a carbon credit could be $80, sometimes it could be $5. So we have seen through COVID and since 2008, the financial market crash, carbon credit market fluctuated a lot. More recently, for the last 2 years or so, it has stabilized and it's actually going up. So now the chances of you monetizing on your carbon credits is much higher than it could have been in the past. That's what I would say at this point.
Okay.
But there is a lot of data available. In fact, the founder has written a white paper with a lot of details on this technology. So I'll be happy to share the white paper with you and some other sources that are available. And I'll be showing you some numbers towards the end as to how it compares. Okay. So we were at step 4. So now you install your IoT sensor kit, which is a plug-and-play device. You just put it in, stick it in your energy meter. It starts calculating how much kilowatt hours you are saving. Yes, sir.
You just said stick it in your energy meter?
It connects with your energy meter.
How?
Um,
I mean, the utility company doesn't agree to that. You can't just go add stuff to their meters. That's a revenue device for them.
So this is a measurement kit, and actually I have a slide, which is slide number much further. I'll show you how it. Can I take a pause on that question
Oh, yeah, sure.
for a few minutes?
Yeah,
So I can show you a picture of how it connects.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not messing around with energy meters at all. This
Well,
itself is an energy meter measuring the energy,
Always
the solar energy. Yeah. Okay, so the energy, the CO2 emission reduction is measured and it's published to the blockchain network. So step 5 is telling you that once the blockchain gets that data from the IoT sensor devices, it runs its algorithms and it calculates how much carbon credit it translates to, and it tokenizes it and generates a non-fungible token called CCT out of it. All these CCTs are put in the marketplace, and the marketplace is also on blockchain. There are wallet apps and other apps which you can use to go to the marketplace. The buyers can go. That's what it says on number 6, this corporate ESG initiatives. They require you to do all of these things so they can go there and purchase those carbon credits, and the funds are paid off. At the end, what it says is there is an app where you can go and see how much of the carbon reductions you have done, and how many tokens does it translate to.
So can you explain corporate ESG? They're the exchange broker, I am assuming.
Yeah.
So who's monitoring and regulating that?
So again, there are 2 markets, right? So one is that their major emission cap has to be maintained. So they purchase from other companies like Tesla and other companies. And then if they are not able to purchase that many credits from the regulatory market, they go to voluntary market for additional carbon credits.
So is ESG a voluntary FTX style market, or is it?
So these are ESG workers within the company. Every company has an ESG branch these days, environmental, social, and governance body. And there are brokers, ESG brokers that help.
Well,
Yes.
That's always the sticking point, is the brokers usually.
Yeah.
So who's handling the brokerage? That's what I was asking.
The ESG brokers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are certain carbon, like carbon credits that are put on the marketplace from this program, do they demand that you get a premium for that because everything is more credible and valid?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is absolutely correct. In fact, there is a point in one of the upcoming slides on just that, because these are the most credible carbon credits. They are accurately measured, and the data is tamper-proof, and it's technologically handled. There is not messing around. So the cost of acquisition of these carbon credit is the lowest for any company. So the ESG consultants would be pushing these more because these are more credible and these are more cost effective. All right, so we will look at these components if my thing works. One at a time. All right, so let's start with the decarbon e-data miner. So you had a question on that. So e-data miner or energy data miner is nothing but it's an energy meter in itself with a cellular modem. So it has an eSIM cellular modem in it. It's measuring the solar energy, and it doesn't require any centralized gateway to send the data to the blockchain network. This will directly capture the data, and it will send it to the blockchain network using the eSIM card that is in it. It's a commercial grade 3-phase electric power meter, and it's engineered for precision and performance. With 0.5% accuracy, it provides the highest level of energy metering, highest accuracy measures of energy metering. The data is read near real time. Every 1 second, it will read the data, and then it's going to batch the data for about 5 minutes and then send the data to the Meta Cloud every 5 minutes or so. The emphasis of these energy meters is data integrity. Every measurement that's taken, it's audited, it's stamped, and it's immutably associated with that device. So it will accurately tell you that this data is coming from this household, from this particular device. You cannot change that. So data integrity is the most emphasized aspect of this particular device. Now, it meets the international standards of Project Haystack for data cleaning and standardization. And you all are IT folks, you probably know Project Haystack gives you that ability to standardize the data, so it's easier to read by several different other devices. And it, because of the eSIM, it guarantees secure and widespread networking, which doesn't depend upon the networking of the consumer. So it's going to directly publish the data. And at a very cost-effective rate of $250, this is a plug-and-play device, and the installation takes less than 5 minutes. And once you plug it in, it's out there sensing your data, measuring your solar energy, and generating carbon credit through it.
So if you put it in the home, where does it go?
Okay, I think everybody's curious about that. So let me go to that. I will go to that slide. Yeah. So see that 5-minute installation that it says? It just goes in that box where energy meters are plugged in. You stick it on the side, and I think wherever your solar energy is coming through, you connect your wires to it to measure. Yeah. I should have put this in. Okay.
Now, can the electric company, because you're putting solar energy back on the grid, selling that back to the electric company, aren't they measuring that energy that's going back on the grid that's clean energy from solar and claiming that as a carbon credit on their behalf as well?
And if they're smart, they should be. I don't know
like
the
double
answer.
counting almost, right?
That would be double counting, but I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I don't at this point. But I
if you're
can check
not,
on it.
but if you're not selling back to the grid, you can get
That you can definitely, yes. Then it's not double counting whatsoever. Okay. We're going to go back to where I was. Yeah. So these are some details of the energy data miner. Now, CCT is carbon credit token. Conceptually, it's similar to carbon credit certificate, which represents 1 ton of carbon. You remember 1 ton of carbon, 27, 27, 27. So conceptually, it's similar. but in essence, in the context of NZTWork, it's not same as carbon credit. It is because it's measured on the device, on the source, and it is calculated algorithmically using the global sources of data. You know, the global carbon credit market, we use that data and then devise the price of that carbon credit. But this is a tokenized version. It uses Ethereum ERC 721 standards to create a non-fungible token. So CCT is a non-fungible token, cryptocurrency, if you know. And it puts earnings directly into a consumer's pocket. That's the main point to emphasize here. All right, so the other component that we saw was the blockchain, the whole MetaCloud. MetaCloud is formed by these very specialized nodes called IoT nodes. So this is nothing but a mini computer. This is a computer server. It's not similar to any traditional node in a blockchain server. This uses 10x times less energy than any other server. So it alleviates that issue we always have with blockchain, right? It takes so much energy, but they have specially created it to use very, very low energy. It's highly energy efficient and performant. The important point I was about to mention. Anyway, it will come to me. It uses the 6th generation AI accelerated chips from NVIDIA, which is again a very high performant chip, which makes which is also low energy chip. You know, it uses less than 5% of energy that any other accelerated chip would be using. So the fun fact down below is what always amazes me. If you put 38,000 of these nodes together, it creates a decentralized cluster of nodes that can rival Fukagu, the supercomputer. That's the kind of the level of efficiency and performance this node holds. So in future, so right now we use this node to capture the carbon emission data, to calculate the carbon tokens out of it, and to do other kind of modeling and AI on that data. But in future, it can be used for many other Web3 front and back end applications. It could be used for XR applications, metaverse applications, because it holds that kind of power to run those sort of apps. The interesting thing here is the NZT token or net zero token. So whoever hosts this device will be rewarded with the net zero token, which is another non-fungible token. It's a very, very unique concept which NZTWork has created, the dual token rewarding system. So NZT kind of becomes your utility token. This is, if you know blockchain and proof of stake algorithm used in the blockchain network, this is the utility token you will use to stake or deposit in the network to be able to run certain functionalities of the network, like security or like validating a block that gets added to the blockchain and so on. So this utility token is used for staking. Its value will be derived from the marketplace, like other NFT values are derived. And we do expect that the value of NZT is going to rise really, really high, given the demand of decarbonization projects that there are.
So is this sort of like the helium
Exactly
model where
right.
somebody
Yes.
buys one of those and sticks it in their house or their business or whatever, and you're hoping to create a network through that
100%.
adoption?
Thank you. And that was the point I was going to make. Helium. So yes, it is exactly the helium model.
And what's the network technology for the wireless communication?
It is
Cellular?
it is cellular.
It's cellular.
It is cellular. Yeah. So this is the helium model.
She mentioned eSIMs earlier.
Yes,
Right?
Okay.
I mentioned eSIMs in the context of energy data miners, but this one uses that.
That's a data miner, right? It's
Well,
generating
energy
tokens.
meter. I mean, I mentioned it in the context
Oh,
of
okay.
energy meter, but this one also uses that.
So it's also using SIM based.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Question, I'm just wondering why you want to mention that it can host metaverse and XR applications on the edge. Are metaverse and XR applications on the edge being used here in this context, or?
They are not being used in this context, but this network can be expanded for many other applications.
Okay.
So if you're curious, the founder of this company, of Decarbon, he has created a company called Vineo.io. It's a Swedish company, and they do digital twin as a service. They have done a whole lot of AI integrations with smart buildings, smart cities. They have done a whole lot of AR, XR applications, and they're also getting involved in metaverse applications. So they have done some really, really cool things. I'll put a link in my deck when I share with you, and you can share with the group. So go check it out. They are doing some really interesting things with those kind of technology. It's not used in this context, the carbon credit.
Okay. Now, this blockchain was this created from scratch? Like you created the Genesis node and you began from scratch, or are you piggybacking on an existing blah blah?
It's created from scratch, from the Genesis block. Absolutely. I don't know how I'm doing on time.
You've got 4 minutes officially, so we can run over a few minutes if you need to.
Okay, all right. So I'll hurry up. So it's in essence, it's just a 3-step process. The first is the MetaCloud node that you just saw. You purchase a MetaCloud node, you plug it in at your home, and use a private VPN to instantly get connected with the most efficient decentralized network we call MetaCloud. So once you have your node, you plug it in, you are connected. NZTWork, like I mentioned, it rewards you with NZT net zero tokens if you are a host of that node, because you are providing an infrastructure for storing the data, for sharing the data, for processing the data, modeling the data, and calculating the carbon credit tokens with this node. So that's your reward for that. And then the third set is, because it calculates the carbon credit token, whoever has their energy meters installed, the one we saw earlier, it will be calculated for each of those consumers that are using the energy meters, and it will assign the CCTs to those. Yes.
You mentioned the $250 device on the, or $250 price on the IoT input or data collection component. What's the price of the MetaCloud now?
2,500.
2,500. Okay.
Yeah.
2,500. It says on.
Yeah.
2,500.
25. Yeah, 2,500.
Yeah.
Yes. So I have made a pre-order for that. Actually, all the advisors do get a little coupon. We can give you a coupon code for 5% off. And if you want to make a bulk purchase, then there's some other coupons you can use. If you guys are interested, I'll be happy to help. This was just for awareness that this topic exists and how we can, spread the word. Okay, so 3-step process, and basically what this picture is telling you, the idea is that everyone will have accessibility to the tools and technologies and have the motivation to do it. Earlier, accessibility to carbon markets was not there. And what was the motivation? I mean, it's just frustration. If I have to monetize some carbon market with my solar panel in a traditional market, it's just headache. So many different parties and all the fees that I have to pay out. But here you have the motivation because you're earning the rewards. You're earning the value right away without any hassle, without any headache. So that's what it's trying to say. And it's also depicting that you may be earning rewards for little things, changing your light bulbs, switching your washer times, or maybe even riding a bicycle in future. Who knows? We'll create an IoT sensor for that. And if you're riding a bike, you can measure and get some credits for that. So yeah, that's just showing the dashboard app. or the different apps that NZTWork provide, Decarbon and NZTWork. There would be an app that tells you how much data you have collected in real time or historical data. It will show you some graph of your energy usage and how you can optimize. It's going to make you suggestions on optimizing that. And then there will be a wallet app where you can save your non-fungible tokens and can trade them out and those sort of things to monetize on that. We are running a public-private pilot program with Energy Trust of Oregon. This is in place today, and it uses a dual model, push model and pull model. This is, I think somebody was mentioning, the electrical contractors. They are incentivized to install the kit to either the homeowners or business owners. So that answers the question that you were asking, sir, earlier, that you cannot mess around with energy meters, right? But if you have a contract with the energy company itself or the government, and you incentivize those contractors to put the device in, they would be there to help. So you incentivize them, and then the ESG consultants are pushing these carbon credits to companies. So this will be generating the carbon credit, and the ESG consultants can go to airlines or whoever else and say, buy this carbon credit rather than something else. So that's the push model. And the pull model, corporate buyers will reach out to the brokers themselves and say that, well, we need some carbon credit. Give us an option to where we can go. And then there is the referrals and other things involved for incentivizing. Sorry, I'm rushing a little. Ed told me 4 minutes.
Well, you got a little bit more than that.
A little bit more than that, okay. So I just have a couple slides. So this is, I wanted to put this slide here. I already talked about 2 reward systems, the net zero token and the carbon credit token. So these are the 2 ways of rewarding the user of these components. But there is a third long-term benefit of having this solution out there. That's like having a massive open data lake. And that data is available to you, which will enable so many other AI applications that we can build to expedite this transition of carbon reduction. You know, ultimately, the goal is that how can we reach that goal faster? 2050 is not that far away. So we need to have more tools and more technologies. And what enables all these tools and technologies these days? It's the data. Data is the king. So we are capturing that data. That data is immutable. You cannot mess around with it. There's a lot of transparency there. So use that data and build other applications to support. So that's the third aspect, the triple win right there.
So what's the value of the NZT token? Is that like the proprietary currency that NZT has created? I mean, because how does someone convert that to value when they're thinking, oh, I'm going to buy the device, I'm going to like run the power to it in my house, I'm going to, I guess, pay for the cellular connection.
Yeah.
How do I run that business case in terms of NZT tokens as the payoff?
Great question. Great question. And I asked that question, same question to the founder. I love the answer. So you can purchase carbon credit. You can translate your net zero token to carbon credit token. So there you go. So you get carbon credits in your hand, which you can monetize by selling in the carbon credit market.
Okay.
That's one way of doing it. Second way of doing it is, it's just like any other cryptocurrency, any other NFT that you're holding that has a value. You can put it on the marketplace like OpenSea. You know, OpenSea has all these, digital art and whatever else where you can sell. And with the trend line we are seeing, or the momentum we are seeing in this market, sustainability market, there is a very high chance that this token, NZT, will also increase in value. So there will be people wanting to buy this from you and hold on to it as an investment. So that's the second way, that you hold on to it and it gets the value just like any other crypto. Third is you might be able to use centralized crypto exchanges. So some of these newer tokens, if they are not in the market for too long, you cannot exchange them for dollars, or you cannot buy or sell them for dollars, but you can pair them with other cryptocurrencies. So you might be able to buy or sell NZT with the Bitcoin or with Ethereum or whatever. And then the next process will be you sell that to get the US dollars from it. So there are a couple of different models. And we have a letter of intent from 2 centralized exchanges already to list NZTs there. We have 10 more in the pipeline to get associated with. Yes.
Excuse me. So you said hosting Meta Cloud nodes. Are those boxes nodes, or is this something in addition to those boxes that they would host to get credit?
That's the node.
So each of those meters are nodes.
No, the $2,500 box is another.
Okay.
Here. So the 2 things here. One
So
is
you fill your
the
garage with them, like Bitcoin
Okay.
mining, I guess.
yes.
Right. So if you wanted to, you could get that 2,500 box, and that becomes a node that you're hosting.
Exactly.
Got it.
That is it.
So you said it's cellular, and obviously the price of data on cellular networks has been coming down, but still somebody has to pay that.
Yeah.
How does that get paid for?
You're paying.
No, you're putting the SIM card in?
Cellular.
There is so you connect via a private VPN to the network, but whatever cost is involved in connecting through that private VPN to the network would be your cost, right? You are providing that infrastructure, and that's why you're getting rewarded.
So it does have Ethernet then as well, so I don't have to use cellular. I could plug in.
I believe so. I'm not 100% sure, but you can look up the specifications.
Because I don't want to pay
Right.
crazy expenses, right?
Yeah.
So I have a question. So Helium, which is very similar, also had made the same claim and was about a 6-month turnaround time. And it suddenly dropped from, $40 a token to $1 a token.
Yeah.
So what lessons learned so that the market devaluation of these tokens is going to take place? Because we've already seen this happen with Helium where it crashed.
Yeah.
And it has not recovered.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And that's a genuine concern with all crypto, right?
Yeah.
When the crypto market crashed, everything crashed.
Yeah, but
And even
even
if a token is a genuine token, it crashed because the rest of the crypto is crashing.
But if it's convertible to a carbon capture credit.
That is correct. So that's
convertible. How do you convert it?
it's the dual reward system that NZTWork has created. You can convert your NZT to CCT.
You're saying this company provides the market that allows the conversion.
Is it a fixed rate conversion?
Is it a what?
A fixed rate conversion, or is it a market bidding kind of variable conversion rate from the?
I am not 100% sure. I believe it's a fixed rate conversion. The reason is, so this company allows it. So think about it this way. This network, this node is facilitating the creation of a genuine carbon credit, an authentic tamper-proof carbon credit, verified, high integrity, right? So it is a part of that carbon credit ecosystem. So they do allow that NFTs can be converted to carbon credit. But I hear your concern. Carbon credit should be genuine carbon reduction amount, right? If NZT is not doing that, how are you able to convert? But they have come up with this dual incentive structure for doing that. And I believe white paper has more details, and I'll be happy to share the details with you if you are curious. But at this point, that's the only information I have.
Last question. Anybody else? All right, let's give Menka a hand.